actually a very great honor and privilege to have one of the great eminent minds, scientific minds in the country. And more proudly, he is also a Telugu, if we have any such feelings. His specialty is metallurgy. He's very passionate about it. He's also into nanoparticles and nanotechnology. I have listened to some of his talks on YouTube, and he is very passionate. I went back to my college days and thought, okay, I can learn a lot. And he is also an awardee, Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar award winner. He was also the Young Scientist Award winner. He was also the Best Metallurgist Award winner. Okay. He graduated in 1983, I think, if I'm not wrong. He studied in Government Polytechnic College.
83 was my
Polytechnic
86 was my BTech.
86 BTech, and later he did his PhD and Masters from Indian Institute of Science Faculty. Yes. Later, he has had a long academic career and as a researcher. I believe he has 16 patents.
You should say that.
He almost has 16 patents, I believe. I'm not sure. He has 16 patents, and he has been part of some cutting edge technologies that helped the country. Right? If you do some background thorough check about him, he had Arjun battle tanks that he keeps on speaking about, the Visakhapatnam steel plant, and many things that we don't know. Okay. So
25 years, so something should come
today,
out, right? When you all become like me, obviously there will be something for me to talk.
So he has also authored some close to 400 peer-reviewed journals, papers published in peer-reviewed journals, and he's also authored books on nanotechnology, nanoparticles. So I would like our discussion to be focused more on science, scientific temperament, and the scientist as a person. We would like to know about him also, so that through you, our readers can get some scientific interest. This is all that I have to say. Thank you so much, sir, once again, for graciously accepting our invite immediately. I also forgot one more thing. I watched one video of his wherein he said, it was a 12-year-old or 7-year-old video, wherein he said, if not a metallurgist, maybe I would have become a monk.
Yes.
So he's also into spirituality. Okay? So it's a unique combination of a scientist
There's one
and
thing which has changed me.
so it's a unique combination of a scientist and a seeker. So we have a very unique person in front of us today. So let us ask some very good, insightful questions. He's insightful in science and spiritual. Okay.
India, if we go back to ancient times, was a leader in this field.
Yes.
But over time, over centuries, it has lost its science and technology due to various reasons. Now, can you trace us what you know about that history and whether we still have that potential in us in this particular world now, in this contemporary world, where technology is progressing very fast? And where do we stand at this juncture now?
Very interesting question. Actually, I always tell to people, there are only two things in life. One is spiritual, another is material. Anything other than spiritual is material. That is we. so material science and metallurgy is all about how to deal with materials. Okay, including the cup that you drink, use to drink. So it's also a material called ceramic. So we deal with starting with a chair that you sit to the mug that I use for drinking. So everything has to be a material. Even the so-called software engineers have to have a hardware on which they can write a software. So that way, material science is very important, no doubt about it. And people are realizing that more and more in recent times, I would say. And when you, as you rightly pointed out, long back, India was possibly much before. When I was a BTech student, I was taught that metallurgy, or for example steel, most important metal that we regularly come across is steel. Steel was first made in UK, is what was told to me. There was a gentleman by name Bessemer. Okay, if in chemistry somewhere, if you have read a little bit in 10th grade, so Bessemer converter it is called. So which converts what is called a pig iron into a steel. So this was what was taught to me. I would say possibly because we were ruled by these guys for so many years, 500 years of slavery, we have slowly possibly lost a kind of self-confidence on ourselves. So as a result, most of the things that we know is that somebody else is great and that we need to follow them. That's when, as I was reading more and more about metallurgy, particularly when I came to IIT Bangalore, Masters and PhD, my professor, Professor Ranganathan, with whom I did my Masters and PhD, wrote a book called Indian. The exact title I'm not able to recollect, but it's more on what is called wood steel. Woods. So, 2000 years back, India made the first steel. In the borders of Andhra and Karnataka, it was very popular. Even in Telangana, people find the small kilns in rural villages where they used to make steel. And this was called ukku. If you know a little bit, Telugu, steel is called ukku. Tamil people call it as ek. So this ukku, possibly the Europeans could not pronounce it well, so it became a woods. Okay, so WOOTZ. If you go to Google and put it, there is a lot of material. People wrote poetries about it. And the steel was so strong that it was used as a swords. People used to make swords out of that steel. And it can cut a helmet into two pieces. Such strong steel was made. And great warriors, samurais have used. Alexander the Great was supposed to have used. And slowly the steel went to various places, went to China, went to Japan, went to Europe, and various places. And but in the process, the problem with India is we don't record these things. The process of making that steel was never recorded. It went through generation from mouth to mouth. Okay, father used to tell the child, and possibly they used to keep that technology so secretive that they have never recorded anywhere. So as a result, the only records that we know is the records that outside India people have recorded. Somehow, maybe their science was as the way Western thinkers start thinking that it has to be made, accessible to everybody. Okay, that's the reason why writing books was very popular in science. In India, science writing was not very popular those days. So that is one of the reasons why we lost. And in fact, much later, almost 1990, people have taken a piece of this wood steel, okay, from a museum and put it into an electron microscope. I'm a microscopist all through my life, and where you can actually see small things at very high magnifications. Okay, these are called electron microscopes, and they found something called carbon nanotubes. In material science, carbon nanotubes are supposed to be one of the strongest material anybody has ever made. And first time such a carbon nanotubes were observed in materials was in Japan, and that was around 1990. Okay, so around 2000, and somebody picked up a piece of this and put it, and they were able to see carbon nanotube kind of structures in the steel. But remember, this is steel made 2000 years back, where we do not know whether those guys are aware of something called carbon nanotubes, whether it was an accident that it came in, or they had the knowledge that was not recorded, is all not known to us. But what is important is now, possibly now people say that such a high strength must have come because of such kind of fine nanostructures in that steel. So to that extent, what is very fascinating is that we were able to make such strong materials, and even the technology that was used to make that. For example, if you want to make a sheet of metal, one way is to roll. Okay, most of us use aluminum foils for packaging, food packing. How are they made? They are made by rolling. And if you want to roll something, it should have very high what is called ductility. Okay, it should be ductile, we say. It should be soft. If material is not soft, you can't roll it. It breaks when you apply a stress. And this particular steel has almost 1.4% carbon in that steel. A high carbon steel is a brittle material. And the higher the carbon content, metallurgy we all know, it's very brittle. So making a sword is nothing but a sheet of metal. Okay, and if you want to make a sheet of metal, you have to take a thicker piece and then hammer it, and then make a thinner piece out of it. Thin pieces cannot be cast. Hmm? Casting is one technique that people use to make things. For example, this is like a cast material. This is also something like a cast material. Okay, so casting, if you want to do thin material casting, the metal has to flow through very thin cavity. So steel has such a high melting point. 1500 degrees is the melting point of steel. So it's very difficult to make the steel flow through very thin cavities. As a result, casting cannot be a technique to make such a sword. So swords were made by hammering them. But a brittle material, when hammer it, it should break. So how is that 2000 years back people knew how to handle such a brittle material through a forging process or a hammering process and make such a thin sheet? Amazing technology. Even today, I know people in Cambridge, people in Oxford are working hard to make exactly the same composition of material uh, and hammer it and make a sword. People have not been still successful, which was successful so many years back. So that's where I always feel there was possibly a lot that we have to learn from her heritage. That's the reason why at IIT Hyderabad we have started a department of heritage science and technology now. Possibly the only engineering institute in the country which has a department of heritage science and technology, where we offer an MTech in heritage science and technology. Uh,
So you study ancient technologies, maybe that were lost.
yeah.
Kind of.
So I strongly believe actually that there should be a university one day where morning time you should be able to teach the ancient science and technology of India, and maybe afternoon you teach the modern science, so that somebody grows up with both these together. And somehow we have lost. I mean, to be honest with you, again, I can tell you, it's not easy in current generation to talk to somebody about our heritage. Nobody easily accepts. The so-called scientific minds, they believe that everything has to be told by somebody, a white-skinned fellow, for us to accept it. I mean, it was tough for us to get this proposal of having a Department of Heritage Science and Technology passed in our Senate. I'm telling it openly. But we were able to manage. Somehow we have very young faculty who are still open to new ideas. So we were able to. So none of the older IITs have even started thinking about such a department. And we teach in our MTech starting from what is the science behind Indian languages. Okay. For example, many people say Sanskrit is the best language for programming. Why is it so? What is so special about Sanskrit? Similarly,
Do you really think so? On Sanskrit?
people say that. I mean, I'm not a computer scientist, but there are people. If you want, you can talk to. We have faculty in IIT Hyderabad who work on, for example, Panini grammar. There are quite a number of AI people now who are working on Sanskrit grammar. Okay, so quite a number of, I mean, we have at least 4 or 5 faculty at IIT Hyderabad who speak to each other only in Sanskrit. Such people exist in IIT Hyderabad. And they were the people who are actually behind this. Because about almost like about 15 years back, I was working with a Sanskrit scholar who used to say that, sir, there are some scriptures where if you understand the sloka properly, it tells you how to make a metal or an alloy. The whole procedure of making an alloy is there hidden in it. So he used to translate it and tell me, okay, and we used to actually make some nanoparticles. Okay, we made nanoparticles of copper, brass nanoparticles, variety of nanoparticles using that. We even published a paper out of that in a scientific journal. Okay, so my job was basically to demonstrate that the material is really nano by putting it into my microscopes which are high-end, high-resolution microscopes where we use it for nanotechnology. And so we were able to really see that it is possible. But unfortunately, if you want to take any translated version of those scriptures, okay, many a times when you are translating something, depending on the mindset of the person who is translating, the main meaning might be lost. In fact, that Sanskrit scholar used to tell me that for every word in Sanskrit, there can be different meanings depending on the context. There can be a religious meaning, there can be a scientific meaning for the same word. Okay, so he says you have to have the right mindset to be able to understand the right thing that you want. So as a result, I felt that if our brilliant undergraduate students of IITs, if they can possibly read these scriptures and understand the science behind it, there can be a lot of great technologies possibly can come out. Something like a wood steel, uh, so which we can possibly start implementing now and possibly make better materials for the future. And that's why we started about 5 Sanskrit courses. We started with something called Samskrita Bharati, if you have heard of. So where they basically teach Sanskrit, how to speak Sanskrit, for example.
Is it open to all and is it only for students?
It's open to anybody, sir. Now that was the first beginning. My plan was that we should have at least 5 courses. Luckily, IIT Hyderabad has what is called fractal academics that we teach. That means you can have half a credit course, 1 credit course possible. In a typical IIT, older IITs, you have a course which runs for the whole semester, okay, which are called typically 3 credit courses. At IIT Hyderabad, we have the whole semester broken into 6 segments. We have 1-2 segment and 2-3-4 segment and 5-6 segment. That means when I take a 3 credit course and divide it by 6, that means I get 0.5 credits. So I can have a 0.5 credit course at IIT Hyderabad, which means just about 6 to 7 hours of teaching. A 3 credit course basically means 3 hours of teaching per week, and 14 weeks is our semester. So 42 hours of teaching is 3 credit course. Divide by 6, you get about 7. So if we have a visitor like you coming, to IIT Hyderabad from some country, let's say, and just staying for about a week, every day you teach 1 hour, okay, you can finish a half a credit course and go. Okay. In fact, we have people who are into creative arts. A Kathak dancer comes to IIT Hyderabad, and on a Saturday morning 3 hours, afternoon 3 hours, Sunday morning 3 hours, afternoon 3 hours, 12 hours of teaching finished over a weekend. 300, 400 students register for such courses, and we give 1 credit to them. Okay, so this is the beauty of IIT Hyderabad, that we have ensured that there is a lot of what I would call it as learning in a broader sense to begin with. So most of the time, in engineering, typically, students do not have flexibility to learn. We felt that at IIT Hyderabad that education should be student centric to begin with. Okay, I'm a strong believer of that.
Not few fixed set courses.
So what we say is, first year you pick up a number of courses, half a credit, 1 credit courses. Okay, explore, and then start understanding which one you are liking more, and then in that particular area go deeper and take a 3 credit course. So this way we can have short term kind of courses where students can really explore. So this kind of 1 credit courses we started with Sanskrit. And I said that from the first course to the 5th course, as you go, you should become stronger and stronger in the grammar, so that by the time you finish the 5th course, your grammar should be so strong that you can open a scripture and understand the science behind it. So our intention is completely understanding science. We are not into religious activity, and we are not interested in that at the moment. So in the same way, we said that now we have tied up with what is called Central Sanskrit University in Delhi, and a professor from there comes to IIT Hyderabad, stays with us for 1 full year and teaches Sanskrit, and we opened it for anybody. Okay, I'll come to that opening in a minute, a little later. We call it as OAT, open to all teaching. Okay, so this way our Heritage Science and Technology Masters program also has not only language, we also go into yoga, for example. What is the science behind yoga? If somebody says I am meditating, can I understand the state of mind of yours? Okay, using, let's say, fMRI, EEG kind of technologies, can somebody understand what is the state of mind? Okay, looking at really, I mean, people say that when you do meditation over a period of time, your senses come under certain control, is what people say. You'll develop a balance, is what we say. In fact, if you have read a little bit about spirituality, I mean, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, also there is they call it as Ashtanga Yoga. The eighth stage in that Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is called Samadhi. Starts with Yama Niyama and ends with Samadhi. Samadhi, if you understand the word carefully, it is Sama plus Dhi. Dhi is mind. Those who do Gayatri anytime, they say Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Dhi is mind. So let my mind be active. Okay. So the Sama is something which is equanimity. Okay. So a mind which is balanced is Samadhi. So it's not a mystical term that samadhi is. We talk of various movies talk about various mystic things. It is just that by yoga, by doing meditation, you develop balance. You need it, I need it, okay, and even a small child, who goes to a school needs that balance. So that is what is supposed to be. So this we teach that also. Then we talk about the architecture. Okay, Indian architecture, for example, you go to Ramappa temple. The whole temple, how many of you have seen Ramappa temple? Please, if you look at it scientifically a little bit, that whole temple is made of bricks. If you take a piece of that brick and put it in water, it floats. It's porous. You take a porous brick and pour water on this, let's say it rains, it will become like a mud. But this temple is standing there for 700, 800 years. Nothing has happened to it. Okay, so there must be some technology that is used. Okay, the materials that are used, and so it's important for us to understand that, so that we can possibly create more such things in future. In fact, right now I've given a big project to our department. You want to ask something? So we are working on that, I should say. Okay, work in progress. But more importantly, I also told my heritage people that once upon a time there was no electricity in India, possibly nowhere. But still they used to have houses which used to have enough lighting. So the way you plan your house. Similarly, there was no air conditioning. Even now, you go to villages. Okay, you sit into a thatched roof house. Though outside temperature is 45 degrees, the temperature inside is cooler. So they have certain technologies that they have used to maintain the houses cool. So now our faculty member, just recently one has come up with a design of such a building. So in soon, possibly in about a year or so, we will have a building on our campus, which we want to call it as a heritage building, where there will be no electricity, okay, excepting in the night. There will be lights to switch on, and there will be no air conditioning, and the temperature should be at 25 degrees or so, okay, so that you feel cooler. So these are possible. It's all materials technology, and we want to see how do we implement that.
But where do we stand now as a country?
So coming to that aspect, I feel that it is important for us, particularly keeping Viksit Bharat. You use that term. If really a country has to be called as developed country, okay, in my view, you should focus more on technology. Okay, uh, unfortunately, most of us, I mean, as parents, everybody wants their kid to be a computer science guy, and then possibly even go to US and settle down there. That's a general Andhra style of thinking. Is that okay? Finish BTech, computer science, and you are ready to go to any roadside college also if computer science you are getting. Okay, if you don't get IIT Hyderabad, you are ready to go anywhere and get that, and then possibly next ticket that is available, go to US, do a master's there, and settle there. So, but if that is the case, obviously, in my view, never ever. No country has ever become a developed country without working on technology. Think of Germany, think of any country, Switzerland. Small countries are well known for technology. Even Taiwan, such a small place, every mobile is actually from Taiwan, more or less. Okay, so semiconductor technology. Okay, so that is something that we need to focus on, technology. And that's the direction in which at least IIT Hyderabad has started taking a lot of initiatives. Probably we will have time to talk about that. But what is important is, yes, we started importing technologies to a large extent. uh, because we always believed that the other side is better than us. Okay, but there are three areas I strongly believe where India has actually shown that indigenously we can grow. One is space technology. Okay, you know now that Chandrayaan, Mangalyaan, everything is completely indigenous. Okay, because when somebody denies to give you technology, either you remain under the carpet or decide that I cannot be there. I want to show who I am. Okay, and that's how we have shown. Now we launch other countries' satellites also. We have been doing that, and then the other is nuclear engineering. There are so many nuclear plants in India, and never ever you would have heard that there was an accident in a nuclear plant. Completely indigenous technology, the so-called carbide technology, uranium carbide technology, indigenously developed. Again, nobody gave us technologies because that is very closely guarded technologies. Okay, because people think that it can go to wrong hands. I mean, that's the point about science. Okay, science does not consider who is using that science. Okay, it depends on the person who is using. Somebody can make a bomb out of it, somebody can make an electricity out of it. Okay, so the third is again missile technology. Hmm? I mean, if you look at India, is almost close to anybody in the world in all these. So these are the three areas where nobody gave us technology, and we decided that we should grow. But rest of the things, if you look at it, whether it is automobiles, things like that, most of the time, we have started importing. And so it is time now that we should start thinking if really India has to. I always say that for me to call India as a developed country, next week I'm going to Amsterdam, to Melbourne. I should go to Melbourne to a shop and buy a product, and it should be written on the product, it's made in India. Okay, so until that happens, we cannot say we are actually developed country. And that means we should be able to work on not just indigenizing the technology, but make the technologies which are having such a quality that they can compete with the global market and be able to be sold in every country. Right now, to a large extent, what I see in most of the places is our shawls. Kashmir shawl is very popular abroad. Okay, so you see, I was in Amsterdam about a month back, and I see everywhere. They actually write it Kashmir, Cash. So that's Kashmir shawl or something like that. So it's important that we should. Okay, and I think that for that we need to have, in my view, a feeling that for me, nation is most important than myself. Okay, because if I start thinking that I should grow, okay, and then become rich, okay, obviously every one of us want to become a computer science guys because that's where higher salary is. Okay, but joining, let's say, a Tata Steel or a Telco or a Maruti, you may not get the same salary as a Google or a Facebook. Hmm? But that is where actually products are made. And if those products, the brilliant people from IITs can go there, then they will make a difference. Every place Indians have gone, they have made a difference. Whether it is Intel or anywhere in US, it's all almost led by Indians. Hmm? So the same brains, if we start using in our own country and develop our own technologies which are of such a higher quality that everybody is willing to buy them. Hmm? And I think that is, I would say, the next generation focus should be that. Provided we believe that for me, country comes first. And this I have seen in outside. For example, I always say this in many places. For example, Japan, after the Second World War, they were almost devastated. Okay, and they came, really rose like anything. Okay, they are known to be a technology country. In fact, I remember in 1999 when I was in Japan, you go to a place in Tokyo called Akihabara, and where they sell electronic goods. So there is a camera, Nikon camera, made in. I see a Nikon camera here. So there are two cameras, two pieces, exactly same specification, made in China, made in Japan. They say you decide what you want to buy, and this is costlier than the other, and people still buy made in Japan. Okay, though it is more expensive. So this is something that is important. That you should develop such technologies which become a house in every house. And I think if we can focus, and we are now, we see that there is a top-down approach that our Prime Minister is very keen, and he says, let at least he started imposing this onto things like defense. So defense we have, import a lot. By 2030, there is a very strict ban that your imports have to come down to less than 50%. And there is a lot of indigenization that is happening. Okay, defense people are setting up centers of excellence in IITs. IIT Hyderabad has one such center of excellence, okay, called DRDO Center of Excellence. We call it as DIA, Defense DRDO Industry Academia Center of Excellence. Our goal is that can we develop whatever products that we are using in defense, can we now see and make them with such a technology which is indigenous, which has the same quality as what you are importing, and at the same time much less expensive, is something that there is a lot of focus on that. So that was because that was something which is government based expenditure. They can have much better control on that to begin with than the consumer goods. But once you start focusing on one aspect, slowly you will start seeing everywhere. And that is the direction I feel if we start taking India in near future. I would say definitely in the next 10, 20 years, we will see a great change. And there is definitely a scope by 2047 that we would become a developed country, provided we focus on our indigenous technologies to a large extent. Sorry.
So, sir, as you mentioned about how students have first preferences, computer science, and even today in today's generation. So, where do you think was the exact point, or what was that transition? Was it only salaries, or was it the difficulty level in the core streams such as electrical, mechanical, or metallurgical, etc., or the kind of life that this IT has shown to the people that this is a life that you will get? What exactly are the factors, if you can point out, for people, students being more inclined to these streams than the core? And secondly, as of today, what can we do better or different to get students' interest back to choosing these fields, core fields?
Very tough question. Okay. So first thing is, yes, life is supposed to be easier. You sit in air-conditioned rooms and work, which is not the case if you want to make a steel, for example. And most of the manufacturing plants are at the places where the raw materials are available. Okay. For example, all the steel plants, if you know, there is no steel plant in Hyderabad. Okay. So steel plants are all where there are. So to make steel, you need basically three ingredients: iron ore, you need something called limestone, you need something called coal. Okay, these are the three. So wherever these are abundantly available, so people started putting steel plants there. So you have in Jamshedpur, Tata Steel, for example, you have in Rourkela, you have in Bokaro. So this is what we call it as steel belt. Orissa, Bihar, UP, that areas. Okay, so that is where to a large extent these are available. So obviously, young mind, 21 years of age, he will think that he or she will think that this is a difficult life. I want to be in a city enjoying the city life, and here I am going to a place which is slightly a remote place. That could be one of the reasons, I would say. And also there is a thinking that this is more tougher job. Okay. being in a manufacturing industry. But then manufacturing industries have also grown significantly to an extent that you go to a telco now where cars are made, everything is robotics. So there's most of the things you sit in a air-conditioned room actually control how to make a car. Starting from welding of it or rolling it or forging it, everything happens in an automated fashion. That's what so-called manufacturing 4.0 that people talk about it. And now, so there is, but then this feeling which comes from older generation that we have struggled sitting in such older places and such remote places. So possibly that impression stays back. Impressions are something in life which it's very difficult to wash it away, and they stay back in you, so that possibly you keep telling your next generation that possibly it is better for you. So that is where I strongly believe parents have to start becoming, first nationalistic. Then only kids will become that. You should be able to tell. For example, many a times you would see a person who has worked in, let's say, services, that is Air Force or military or Navy. Most of the time, you see their kids take up the same jobs again, because they have seen their father, or mother growing up like that, and that feeling that I should, for me, nation comes first is. So that is something which is not seen in a regular civilian areas. So I think it's important that you have to possibly tell the current generation that life is not all so tough over there, and you can still have and in India, almost every small towns are also grown up now. The standard of living has significantly improved, even in second tier, third tier towns now. So that is something. If we start, thinking in that perspective, I'm sure there will be a day when people will come back into this. And also, more importantly, that in any field there has to be a saturation. For example, to be honest with you, this year the number of placements in IITs has significantly come down. Okay, and in fact, December 1st again placements are going to start for this season. So we have to see how it is last year. So if anybody, whether he does BTech metallurgy or BTech mining, in spite of, irrespective of which branch you do, you want to be in into an IT firm. Obviously, there are limited opportunities. Okay, nobody has infinite number of jobs. So there is going to be a day where there are not enough jobs there. So obviously, some people will not get jobs unless you start thinking that yes, that my branch where I have studied 4 years. Let me, and we at IIT Hyderabad, we say this. We were the first IIT, possibly one of the few IITs, which have said no branch change option at all. 5 years back, we have done this. We said, whatever is your JE rank, you have got some branch. Okay, start exploring what is greatness there, what is enjoyable. I always say this: every organ of your body is equally important. Even a small thorn pricks your finger, you know how much it pains you. So you cannot say I can live without one organ not functioning well. You can't. Okay, same thing true in sciences and engineering. Every branch is
How is the interest of students in emerging technologies like AI, etc., in Hyderabad and IIT Hyderabad?
lot. I would say, in fact, AI very soon is going to win over CSC. I'm sure in 5 years down the line, nobody will join CSC anymore. They will all want to join AI. Okay, and AI is like an omnipresent god now. It goes into every field. Starting from agriculture, you need AI. To aerospace, you need AI. In fact, our AI department, we were the first in India to start a BTech in AI, for your information. 2019 we started, 2 batches have already gone out. In fact, in 2019 we were told that other than Carnegie Mellon and MIT, There is no institute in the world which has an undergraduate program in AI. So we took up the bold step of starting it ourselves. And now we have a department which has about 35 faculty members who are into AI. And they're all not computer science people. We say at IIT Hyderabad, let your BTech be even in agriculture, it doesn't matter to me. As long as your PhD is in AI, you are currently doing research in AI, we want you to be in our department. So we are making a complete interdisciplinary AI department. Okay. And so that, we have people working on all fronts. Okay. Starting from autonomous navigation to 5G, 6G. We talk about AI for telecommunications now. We talk about AI for healthcare now. Okay. Yeah. So AI for smart cities. Okay. We have recently got a big project on AI for smart cities. Okay. How to make cities full of sensors which work on AI and things like that. So this is an area. We also felt that computer science, as it was thought generally by people, that typically a CSE guy, where does he or she go? They go to an IT industry or a fintech industry to a large extent. Okay, we said that in manufacturing also there is in India a lot of competition. For example, if you want to design a new aircraft or a new engine, you need to understand the fluid dynamics very well. Okay, computational fluid dynamics we call it as. Okay, so we started a new branch of BTech. We call it as BTech in computational engineering. This is not computer science. This is not Java, C++, for your information. So we teach them very solid mathematics to begin with. And on top of it, we teach what is called solid mechanics, fluid mechanics, first principle calculations, multi-scale modeling, even genomics. This is the first interdisciplinary undergraduate program in the country where faculty from civil engineering, mechanical engineering, metallurgy, chemical, bio, and also computer science people, all of them teach. And the student does not belong to any one of these departments. We created something called Center for Computational Engineering. The student belongs to that. His roll number belongs to that. And but a faculty from all these come and teach. So that you are creating a CFD expert or an FEM expert or a multi-skill modeling expert. So are a genomics expert for the future. So this is a thing that, as we were talking earlier, you need to start thinking about what does India need. If all IIT start thinking about what does India need and produce such engineers, then I'm sure India will change one day. For example, we have started a BTech in semiconductors. First institute to start a BTech in semiconductors in India. We have only BTech in electrical engineering, BTech ECE, only such people. But if fabs are going to come in India, where are the engineers? We started seriously thinking about it and said, let us start a BTech in IC design and technology. 2022, India has announced India's semiconductor, ISM they call it as, semiconductor mission. Immediately, same year, August 1st, our classes started. And 23 last year, looking at our curriculum, AICTE has now introduced in 125 engineering colleges the same program. And the plan is that 4 years, 5 years down the line, you will have from each college about 50 students coming out. Imagine 100 colleges producing 50 students, each 5,000 students with semiconductor knowledge will come out. In fact, on that day, May 1st, 2022, when our Prime Minister was announcing India semiconductor mission, I met a great gentleman. He is called the father of semiconductor packaging. His name is Professor Rao Tummala. He is from Georgia Tech. Okay, so he has about 100 patents in packaging, semiconductor packaging. He said, Professor Murty, I have been in Georgia Tech for 35 years, but I could not start a master's program on packaging. Can you people think of it? In 3 months, from May 1st to August 1st, we have designed the curriculum, we got it approved in the Senate, advertised it, got about 20 students, and started the classes on August 1st. And MTech in packaging. So this is what is important. If we start thinking that what does really our country needs, and putting country first is the most important. As individuals we should do, as institutions we should do. Yes.
Government here is also demanding from center a semiconductor manufacturing unit.
Correct.
Which is, sir, one thing you mentioned about the jobs reducing in IITs over the years, the placements, as in, and with the coming of AI, is there some, like in general outside world, there is a growing palpable fear that AI will take jobs. It's a general notion, and do you think that AI as a tech institute, like how is it seen AI in IIT Hyderabad? Is there these are students of technology, but among them also, is there a fear that already the placements have reduced, and in near future the jobs will further go down with AI coming in
AI
play?
is a tool, friend. It's like
Yes.
mathematics, okay, which you use in any field. You use mathematics in physics, you use mathematics in mechanical engineering, you use mathematics in civil engineering, even mathematics in metallurgy. Okay, so AI is needed in every field. It does not mean that AI will replace some jobs. Even an agriculture person working in the fields needs AI, so that you will know that what kind of crop I should plant next year. I feel it is going to be more of an enabler rather than. You remember when computers came first time, people thought they will
Exactly.
lose jobs. Okay, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. In fact, jobs have got increased.
During the industrial revolution.
So industrial revolution. So same thing here.
I don't see it as disruptive as it is made of.
Yeah, you see, but the thing is, AI is just born, baby. It's I would say last 10 years only. Any technology for it to reach its maturity, nanotechnology, for example, okay, it has still not reached its maturity. Though nanotechnology, keep on giving the
Bombarding you with
Keep
tea.
refilling with the conversation.
researchers love tea. I have this habit last 30 years until I came to IIT Hyderabad. 11 o'clock in the night, our whole group, we go for a cup of tea. And then come back to the lab and then work until 1, 2, 3, whatever it is. So that is how our life used to be. And then suddenly I came here and my research group is no more here. So that's a different thing.
Sir,
So coming back to that, I don't think that we need to worry that AI will cause a decrease in jobs. But what is important is we should focus onto a manufacturing equally with AI and see how AI can help in manufacturing. For example, we have started at IIT Hyderabad Metallurgy Department an MTech program called ICME, Integrated Computational Materials Engineering, we say. For example, I want to make a new steel. Once upon a time, Tata Steel used to take almost 5 years to make a new steel. A lot of experimentation, things like that. Now, can I use AI, okay, to design a new steel composition, okay, based on the existing knowledge? Okay, I know this steel will have this property and things like that. Data is already available. Using that, can I come up with newer materials? Okay, and then do very little bit of experimentation. Okay, most of the things experimentation is done in the computer, okay, and come up with the best possible composition. I only do that, and as a result, from 5 years now, Tata Steel is able to come to less than 6 months to make a new steel. All that is AI. So we are now talking about designing, for example, a new piezoelectric material, uh, uh, and things like that. Can I come up with newer alloys, newer materials using AI? So that way, AI is going to aid in technology very much. Okay.
The AI department you mentioned is different from Tihan.
Tihan is just a center for autonomous navigation where AI is also used. Okay. So, for example, when you say autonomous navigation, what do I mean? I mean driverless vehicle. Let us say, take a driverless vehicle. Driverless vehicle, of course, needs a lot of AI, but it also needs control systems. It also needs cameras. Yeah? So it also needs GPS. Everything. Okay. So all these technologies have to be integrated into a vehicle. For example, we are running an autonomous vehicle on the campus. It is the only institute where a driverless vehicle is running from the main gate up to the hostels for the last 1 year. 5,000 kilometers it ran. Okay.
if I may interject here, when you develop this kind of a technology, can you upscale it and make it commercially
So
viable?
this is exactly, that is where connecting with industry becomes very important. So that's where I say the second facet of education should be getting connected to industry. IIT Hyderabad, we strongly believe, as I told in the beginning, that education should be student-centric and engineering education should be industry-centric. Okay, if not, then you have lost the thing. So any technology that you develop has to be connected with an industry and should have industry from the beginning showing interest in that, so that because academic institutions are not meant for commercialization. Academic institutions are supposed to bring newer technologies, okay, but there should be somebody who believes in that newer technology. And for example, at IIT Hyderabad, in the last more 5 to 6 years, we have close to about 260 startups that have come up, okay, and they have generated a revenue of 1500 crores, okay. How did this happen? Because people are believing in that and putting money into it, okay. We have created an ecosystem at IIT Hyderabad. We strongly believe innovation is the only way forward. Okay, and to the extent that IIT Hyderabad, we write. If you go to our website, you see IITH stands for what? Have you seen our website anytime? So IITH, we say, stands for Inventing and Innovating in Technology for Humanity. It's not Indian Institute of Technology Hyderabad for us anymore. So we say these two are very important, and it should be for humanity. Okay, so starting from the first year BTech student, we encourage them to work on innovation. Every semester we call for proposals from our students. We call them as build projects. Bold and unique ideas leading to development is the name we gave. Come up with bold ideas. Okay, so when a student comes up with an idea, we say, I give you 1 lakh rupee to begin with. Okay, and then provide you a professor to mentor you. And we have now a building ready, which is called TIP, Technology Innovation Park. We have 1.5 lakh square foot area building, just meant for startups and pre-incubation activity. And we also tell them that if you think that you want to completely focus on your innovative idea without getting disturbed from courses, I say take a semester break. Okay, we give you 6 credits for it. IIT Hyderabad is possibly the only institution where a first semester BTech student can take a semester break. Because we have removed this branch change option. Okay, so typically all IITs and other institutions, first year is all focusing a lot to get the best CGPA to change the branch. Metallurgy fellow. I remember at IIT Madras, okay, we introduced one course of the department in the first year. Everything first year is all common, because unless it is common, you cannot compare the students, okay, in terms of their CGPA for branch change. But they said that these fellows are joining metallurgy but not knowing even a little bit of metallurgy and changing the branch. Let them know a little bit, then change the branch if they want to. Okay, so we introduced in the first year a course called Introduction to Mechanical Engineering, Electrical Engineering, Metallurgical or Materials Engineering, so on and so forth. I taught for 3 years. 50 students sitting in my class. Okay, and every one of them thinks that if I have done my JE slightly better, I would not be sitting here.
While we are at it, is AI thing. In the West, there's a lot of discourse. We will do that. Be it electronics, some of those who are involved in this. Warning that soon it can be more catastrophic if nobody pays attention. Do you think, what is your view on this? Do you think they can make AI conscious? I mean, this kind of discussions do take place regularly, in the West at least.
Whole France. I was there 2 weeks back. My son was defending his PhD thesis, and he said, Nana, can you come to see me defending my thesis? So I visited France, and I saw the whole electricity, 90% of electricity comes from atomic energy. Okay, and that means they have been able to master it, to see that they use it for civilian purposes without any problem. Same thing about anything, AI also. Okay, as long as you understand, for example, just now I gave you an example of making a new steel with AI. Okay, so it depends on who uses it, and it depends on your state of mind. That's the reason why I say, if every one of us, ideally speaking in India, everybody is supposed to be a yogi. Okay, what do I mean by yogi? A balanced person. That's it. If everybody is a balanced person, he knows what is right, what is wrong. In fact, in Ashtanga Yoga, it all starts like that. Okay, Yama Niyama. Okay, what is right, what is wrong? What should you do, what should you not do? Okay, So this, if I understand rightly, righteousness, as people say, viveka. Viveka is all knowing what is right, what is wrong. If that is taught from the childhood to a person, okay, then obviously people will use it in a proper fashion, and only for a progressive world. And I'm sure. So it's important that we all focus on degrees. Degrees is not education. Okay, to educate is something different. Uh, to educate is to for a person to know what is right, what is wrong. If that is not taught, how much ever number of degrees that you have, it doesn't matter. So I think responsible AI is what people use the word. And
Yes.
responsible AI should be taught to people. What is responsible AI? Hmm? Okay. So, for example, everybody talks of Chat GPT now. Okay. So, the question everybody asks is, okay, you have given an assignment to your student and he uses Chat GPT and submits the assignment to you. How do you handle it? So, a teacher should know how to handle it.
You imply that it's like any other disruptive technology.
That's it. It's a disruptive technology. It is going to change the world. And in my view, it's all whether it is a half-filled glass or a half-empty glass is your outlook. That's it. Your outlook.
Sir,
And yes, go ahead.
so what are the action plans of IIT Hyderabad to improve their NIRF rankings?
See, somebody asked me, how did you get Bhatnagar Award? Okay, long back. Nobody works for awards. They work because they love to work what they work on. Okay, I tell my colleagues, my students, 55 PhD students I have graduated. Every one of them I have said one thing: you should choose a job where you don't wait for a Saturday, Sunday. Okay, on a Sunday night, if you are worried that tomorrow is Monday, it is better to leave that job, how much ever money you are getting from that job. Okay, you need relaxation. I do not deny that. Okay, but work should be enjoyable. I love my work to the extent that I sleep only 4 to 5 hours. Okay, and still next day I am equally active. Okay, so this is something. How does that come when you enjoy your work? Okay, so this is I think if we can learn this, in principle, mm, there is no issue. Okay.
So, because you said that the focus is humanity, innovation, basically for humanity, what would you say is the moral responsibility of researchers and scientists? Not just in India but across the world, because everybody is racing to invent something or the other today, but somewhere maybe they lose track of.
That's the reason why this issue that we are talking about is global warming. It's all because we gave less importance to our social responsibility, uh, and now everybody is feeling the pinch of it. Uh, and then suddenly people started waking up, and those guys who spoiled the nature to a large extent, the so-called white guys, are now telling us that you better behave properly. I mean, so it's important that we should be socially responsible, definitely. And every technology that you develop, you people now start asking this question: what is its environmental impact? Okay, so for example, now we talk about renewable energies, solar and things like that. So people started talking about the circular economy. Okay, and also talking about whether starting from how do you make that material, this photonic materials which are used for solar, even there, are you sure that you are taking care of the environment or not? It's possible that while the use of solar energy would reduce the carbonaceous materials usage more and more, which are supposed to be giving you carbon dioxide also. But are we sure that while making this semiconducting material, how much of toxic materials are being generated as byproducts? Are we really taking care of them in such a way that there is no effluents that are being generated in every technology. So now government does not even give permission to start any new plant unless you tell them what are the effluents that are coming out. Okay, and how are you taking care of those effluents in such a way that nothing goes out of your plant which is harmful for anybody to very environment. So there are committees for that and things like that.
Hello, sir. Sir, maybe taking a little detour. So I want to focus on like job as a director. So like a lot of students come to IIT hoping for a better life. Some come for research or their parents are IITians. How do you like balance between like placements, research, coordination with like industry and nation building as well?
Okay. Everybody has 24 hours, right? You have the same, I have the same. It's a question of how do you prioritize. Okay. So for me, till I joined here, I was a teacher and I was a researcher. I always had about 10-15 PhD students with me and focused a lot on research. And I thought, let me contribute to the world by developing technologies which are useful. Okay. Now, as a director here, our job is to see how do I build an institution, okay, which is futuristic. Okay. For example, at IIT Hyderabad, we have a BTech program which we call it as BTech in Engineering Sciences. When I say engineering should be, the education should be student-centric, when that it has to give such a flexibility. This is a unique program, first time in the country, and being offered only in IIT Hyderabad, where for 4 years the student can pick up any courses of his or her choice. A few mechanical, few electrical, few chemical, few computer science. It's up to you completely. So this is the kind of ecosystem that we want to develop. Give complete freedom. And when I studied, it was always straight-jacketed. I was a metallurgy student, so all 4 years metallurgy, nothing else. Now we say to our departments, only 60% of the total credits should come from your department. Let the remaining 40%, let the student choose what he or she wants to do. And out of that, we said 10% of the credits should come from what is called liberal arts and creative arts. Because I strongly believe if you really want a balance, your left brain and right brain have to work in tandem. And engineering is all left brain activity, to be honest. Okay, very little of right brain activity. And creative arts are more of a right brain activity. So that's why we have brought in courses such as music, dance, painting, okay, even mask making, pot making, you name it. Even things like martial arts. Okay, we say we have a huge basket. We say out of this you pick up anything of your choice and do at least 10% of the total credits. Without that you will not even get a degree. We have kind of enforced it to ensure the students really focus on the right brain. Okay, so this way we have created an environment where students are free to pick up. To an extent that now we say a student at the end of second year BTech can even take a diploma and go. And come back, we say we give you 5 years time. If you want to come back and complete the remaining 2 years and get a degree. And I say, if you don't want to come back, I'm the happiest because you don't need a degree from IIT. You are already successful. Okay? That means we are creating Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Because they never got a degree. And they have created empires. So this is the kind of environment we want to create. And this, I feel, only people whose minds are, broad, okay, and out-of-box thinkers can bring in innovations, can bring in Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat cannot come without a straight-jacketed learning will never bring Viksit Bharat. So this is how we have started, a lot of such things. So and at the same time there are stresses, okay. Many students. Stresses to a large extent also come because of the way you have been trained. I mean, to be honest with you, 11th and 10th, I do not know whether you people have prepared for JEE or not. Okay, you did that? Okay. Towards crash course. Okay. I mean, in Andhra, it starts even with 8th grade or something like that. You are all in jails, and that's what I say to our students that at least 2 years, 11th and 12th, you may have great innovative ideas, and you have never got a chance to implement them. Now you have come to IIT Hyderabad. We remove the branch change option. Okay. And at the same time, because I believe in flexibility, I said you can do a double major in any branch of your choice. Okay. So if you do 24 extra credits, you get a double major. If you do 12 extra credit, you get a minor. At the end of the BTech, you get 2 certificates. One, you are a major in mechanical engineering and a double major, let's say, in electrical. So that flexibility we have given. At the same time, we said we have removed this pressure in your mind that I have to get 9.5 CGPA at the end of first year to change my branch. So once that pressure is gone, you say, okay, I don't need to get a 9.5. Now let me start thinking, what was my dream? Did I really have a dream when I started preparing for my JEE? And many people say, my dream is to enter into IIT. I said, if IIT is your goal, then once you join there is no more goal left out. Okay? In my view, IIT should be a means to a goal. Okay? This is my goal, and I want to go through IIT to reach that goal. That is how life should be. And we start telling them, first question, when I meet the first year students, I ask this: what do you want to be 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line? Do you have a clarity? The earlier you get that clarity, the better for you. Because once I have a clarity of what I want to be, I start knowing what should I do to reach there.
I mean, we frequently, in the media, we frequently see that students, say, for instance, from mostly from disadvantaged sections or from districts, who try and so hard and get into IITs. No, they end their lives. This happens, particularly in Rajasthan. Why do you think that happens, and what do you think is the solution? You have been there.
Simple solution, brother. The solution is we need to teach our kids how to face failures. Unfortunately, our problem is we always tell people that you should be always on top. Okay? And top, there can be only a few people. For example, people who are entering in IIT, every one of the kid was a topper in his school, his or her school, and came here. In just one engineering branch called mechanical or civil, let's say, or electrical, there are 50 students. All 50 of them were toppers. But then only one of them will be topper in their class. So obviously, you cannot be. And accepting that, okay, I need not be topper. At the same time, I can still enjoy my subject is something that you need to. And more importantly, what has happened was because of, again, very, I think, proponent that one day there should be a way of admitting students without JEE, hopefully, okay, or JEE with a subjective JEE. Because this so-called, objective JEE has brought us to a state where, the coaching centers teach them how to, basically they tell me, they're saying that, sir, we teach them how to smell the answer. Okay. So that means, you have, let's say, 3 hours exam, 90 questions. That means 2 minutes per question. If you want to solve that problem, it's going to take a long time. So the coaching centers clearly tell them, possibly, how to find wrong answers quickly. Okay. So this is basically making a student smarter rather than making a student thorough. And as a result, such a smart guy comes in, and inside IIT there is no objective exam after you join there. So you have to solve problems. So that means suddenly I have to unlearn some way of learning and learn a new way of learning. It takes some time. Okay. And also for 2 years, you have really struggled so much, you want to relax a little bit. And there's no time for relaxing because it's all semester system. In a semester system, every month there is an exam, more or less. And suddenly a fellow who has relaxed a little bit for a month or so loses the grade a little bit, gets a D grade. You have never seen in your life a D grade. Okay, how do I cope up with that? And parents will always tell you that you have to be topper of the class. Very clear, friends. I joined in August 2019. October, one student committed suicide. Okay. And I still remember. Okay. And that guy wrote in his note that I have been compared all through my life. I don't want to be compared. And I came to know that his parents were in US. They came back to India to see that their children get educated in an IIT system. And then they wanted every child to be in America. Okay. And then this fellow said, for whatever may be the reason, after joining, he could not cope up with this. So his CGPA is not very high. So he knows pretty well that based on his seniors, that this CGPA will not land me into one of the best institutions abroad. But then the pressure from parents and family is like that. So as a result, then immediately first thing that I did at IIT Hyderabad is that I found that IIT Hyderabad, every hostel room is a single seater. Okay, I said, no, this is not the way. At least first year, let students share a room. Okay, then you will start getting friends. I mean, I meet my roommate even now, BTech roommate, whenever I go to Pune. So we started hostels now at IIT Hyderabad. We have 4 hostels which are double seaters. That came because of this boy and all. So I keep telling my children, I have 2 children, whenever they used to come and show me their marks and say, my friend has got this much, I said, do not think of what your friend has got. What is important is you have got something. Do you want to improve on that or not? Okay. For you, you should be a competitor for yourself rather than anybody else. Because comparison, in my view, always kills you. Either you feel superior to someone or inferior to someone. Both are not the right approach for life. So this is something that we need to possibly inculcate into the students. If you start doing that, for example, when we are trying so many new things, experiments, we know that one day we may fail somewhere. But I keep telling my colleagues that if somebody comes to me and says, I have never failed in my life, I would say you have possibly never learned anything in life, or possibly never experimented in life. Because if you start new experiments, you may fail. I mean, that's the reason why in PhD, we have so many failures. First 3-4 years, nothing works in PhD. Okay? Because you are doing something new. If you do something which somebody else has already done, you will never get a PhD. Okay? This is what I tell to all my PhD students. Be proud that you are doing something which nobody in the world is doing it. Okay? That feeling is very important. So this is where we need to somehow teach our kids. Some of you are still young, maybe. One day your kids will start growing, but tell them that it's okay to fail. It's okay to fail, and every failure will teach us something. Take that failure in a positive sense rather than keep thinking that I have failed, I have failed. Start thinking, why did I fail? What was the reason for the failure? And if you start analyzing the reason for the failure, you will find a solution. And the solution is more important for you to improve. And if you start doing that, I'm sure there will be very few suicides. There will be no suicides at all.
Sir, any student who is in the school studies, they always have this ambition, I want to become a doctor or I want to join IIT.
Correct.
So when you ask them at that age, their answers are always be like, I have to serve the country. But after their school education, they join IIT, and then most of the students don't end up doing their work here or job here. They always move abroad. How do you think this issue can be countered?
That's what I started with that. First, if parents can teach them that for us, the country is the most important. Let our country, because I want one day to be called that I'm growing in a country which is a developed country. How many years you will keep on hearing developing country statement? At least our kids should feel that I am in a developed country. How does the developed country come? Unless we focus on our country and developing technologies within the country. If everywhere, I mean, just because my mother is poor, okay, if I simply go and settle down, it is escapism. Okay, you are not improving your conditions. Okay, so if you think you have problems in India by settling somewhere else, you are not solving those problems.
So as director of IIT now, are you telling anything to your students or to the parents?
Exactly. So we try to give encouragements to students to start developing technologies within the country. That's what I told you. The innovative ecosystem that we are creating is such a thing that we want our students to get wedded to technology development. We went one step further and we said, how do we do that for outside IIT Hyderabad, for example? Okay, so we have almost 500 different research facilities, equipment, which are on par with anybody in the world. Okay, so for example, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India has set up something called iSTEM portal, where any institute can put their equipment on that portal for anybody in the country to come and use it by booking a slot. IIT Hyderabad has put 480 equipment on the iSTEM portal and said, let anybody book a slot and use it. And then we went one step further. When I go to all the NITs, second tier institutions, similar to IIT more or less, everybody wants to go to a software job. I said, if this is the way, then it is not going to work for the country. So how do we introduce into them a kind of a feeling that I should become a technologist, develop technologies, or become a researcher? So we said, let them come from their NITs, spend one full year at IIT. Okay, so we started a new scheme where NITs, we signed an MOU with almost 11 NITs. And we said that you complete 3 years at your NIT, come for the 4th year to IIT Hyderabad. We don't charge you a single rupee. No tuition fee charged. You pay your tuition fee to your NIT and spend at IIT Hyderabad. You do courses, we transfer the credits, you get the degree from there. But what is important is in the whole year, you will use our research facilities and do research on a project with a professor who is an eminent professor. Okay, at the end of the year, I want to see, and also they may we provide them our build project funding to them also if they are interested. So this way, at the end, I want to see a few students who will say, I don't want to sit for placement anymore. I want to have my own startup, or I want to go for research. Last year, we bought 30 students. 15 of them joined for PhD at IIT Hyderabad. Some of them went out for research. Some of them have started their own startup. This year, we made that 30 to close to 100 now. And next year, we want to further grow. So to bring these people and see how we can convert or transform a few people who are more technology. So this is something I think is a necessity for the country. And if you do that, I'm sure in years to come, India will be significantly different.
That was a brilliant idea. Let me congratulate you on that.
Thank you very much.
And one last question. You have been a scientist for so long. At the same time, you also admittedly are interested in philosophy. So how do you see the convergence between science and spirituality? This has been going on for a long time, since Vivekananda's times also. They talked about science and spirituality. Okay. Now with the emergence of new technologies, be it quantum physics, whatever, how do you see this convergence? Is it happening at some level now?
Yeah, actually, if you go deep into, if you are a pseudoscientist, it will not happen. If you are a real scientist, it will happen. A true scientist, for example, I don't know if you have heard of books of Bertrand Russell. Yeah. Okay, Bertrand Russell, one book is one of my favorite books, which is called Conquest of Happiness. Okay, he talks about the color of this table, for example. You see it as a gray or a brown something. Okay, you say this is the table has the color of the table is brown. But if you go a little deeper, how does that brownness, you are able to see the brownness? When the light falls on it, okay, all the colors are absorbed and one color is rejected. And that rejected color is what you see. Okay, so it is a color that is rejected by this particular table. Okay, and that you are calling it as its color. Okay, so what is truth? Okay, what is really true? And typically, when you go deeper, for example, I am a microscopist. Okay, I want to see smaller and smaller things. When you want to see smaller things, for example, if you think of a waves, okay, if a wave interacts with some stone, okay, many a times you see the water changes its path also. Okay, so if I want to see two stones separated by a distance like this, okay, if the wave has a wavelength which is larger than this, the wave will not see these two objects separately. Unless the wavelength is smaller than this, it will not. So if I want to see atoms, the wave that I use should have a wavelength smaller than the interatomic distance. So that's why if you want to really see atoms, we use microscopes which are called electron microscopes, where the wavelength of the electron beam is less than 1 angstrom. So here, but when I use such a small wavelength, there is a problem with the smaller wavelength. The smaller the wavelength, the larger is the energy. Okay, E equal to mc by lambda is what people say. Okay, so if that is the case, if I use a smaller wavelength and put, for example, if I am seeing you, how am I seeing you? A light is falling on your face and getting reflected, and I am seeing you. If it is a dark room, I can't see you, right? So when light falls onto you, but when light falls onto you, if that light distorts your face, what I am seeing is a distorted face. What it was before the light has fallen on you, I have not seen. So I do not know what truly you are. Okay? I only see after the light has interacted with you. Similarly, when I put an electron beam on a material and want to see the atoms, the electron beam has such a high energy that it must have already distorted the atoms. And what I am seeing under the microscope is only that distorted thing. I do not know what is it truly. So now what is truth becomes very questionable. Okay. So as a scientist, I know this. Okay. So that's why when somebody goes deeper into science, he understands that there is something which is not in my hand. Okay. I am not seeing the truth. What I am seeing is always a falsehood. Okay. A truth can only be experienced. Truth cannot be experimentally seen. Okay, so these are all the things which a true scientist will understand, and then such a true scientist, I mean, you look at people like Einstein, they always were philosophers. Okay, any one of those great scientists, always when they went very close to a deeper science, they realized that there is something which is beyond my hands. And when you see that there is something beyond our hands, then you have to say that I have to accept it as it is, rather than possibly questioning it. For example, it is night now, you can't see sun. It does not mean that sun does not exist, right? You have to wait till the morning for you to see the sun. Okay, and it's always like that, So there is something always which you don't know. And it does not mean that anything that you don't know does not exist. There may be some flower which exists in some corner of the world which you have never seen. Okay, and does not mean that it does not exist. So that's the reason why a true scientist does not simply say that I don't believe in this. That statements they don't make. I only say I don't know it. Maybe there will be a day I will know it. Okay. For example, if there are two birds, they may be talking in some language which I don't know. Okay. It does not mean that they don't have a language. Okay. And two people silently sitting in front of each other, it does not mean that they have a language to speak. Okay. They might be speaking something to each other in a silent language which I do not know. If you have read a book called Siddharth, okay, I do not know if that was my most favorite books. My son's name comes from that book. It's a book written by Hermann Hesse, one of the German Nobel laureates.
Based on the Buddha's life.
It has nothing to do with Buddha. It's a novel, fiction, but it talks about how somebody struggles to reach what is called realization. Okay, to understand who am I. I mean, this question, who am I, is always a point that everybody felt. If you are a true seeker or a true scientist, you should know who am I. I mean, simple. For example, if I say this is my finger, that basically means I own this finger. I am not this finger. My finger. This is my house. If I say, that means I am staying in this house, but I am not the house. And similarly, if you use the word, this is my body, okay, it also means that I own this body, but I am not this body. Then who are you? Okay, so if you want to be really scientific, you go deeper into that and find out that. And there are quite a number of scientists who tried to go deeper. And in fact, Stephen Hawking, when he wrote that book, he says that the ultimate of science should be, it should be able to say who you are. Okay, and then I will believe the science has reached a level where it can explain everything. Otherwise, science is not explaining everything. Electrons, for example, the dualism is something which people accept it. Because I have never seen electron as a particle. But I know that if it is particle, what does it do? So based on the inference, I say, oh, electron can be particle. At the same time, I also know that there is a diffraction that is taking place. Diffraction cannot happen unless there is a wave. So that means electron is also a wave. How can one be both? So that means there is something which I don't know still. I mean, the plus point is that we always say that a scientist is one who tries to know, more and more about less and less until he knows everything about nothing. And a philosopher is one who wants to know less and less about more and more until he knows nothing about everything. I think with that we can stop. Yes, one last question maybe.
AI, right now, GCC, Global Capability Centers, are also big buzzword in Telangana, in Hyderabad also, especially in corridors of power. Every other day, a new GCC is getting opened, purposely for R&D purpose and innovation purpose as well. So, like, how do you, as a director of a premier tech institute based right out of here only, see it? And do you speak to your students also about it? That is it bringing job opportunities?
An IIT system is a system which is not a top-down system. Okay, director does not tell anybody you do this.
I mean,
but the faculty, when they do that, students that do that, our job is to enable things happen. Okay, every one of the ecosystem that I was talking earlier is to enable. It does not mean a student will take a diploma and go. But I have created an environment where a student, if he is willing to take a diploma and go, they can go. So similarly here, I mean, there are quite a number of faculty who are into this. Okay, but every faculty need not, and every student also need not. There are many things that one can do. This is something that we have to start accepting, that there is no nothing called just one field which should overrule everything else. Okay, let there be people doing many great things. And I think that is an environment that you should create, and also an environment where you give freedom for people to learn. I mentioned about OAT, for example, open to all teaching. I am a strong believer again that teaching or learning should not have any constraints. I just want to learn. I have a joy of learning. I want to know something on astronomy. Unfortunately, in India, till now, I want to learn one subject on astronomy. I have to register for a degree in astronomy. Then somebody will ask me, what is your background? What entrance exam you have written? Okay. So we started saying that, can we not abolish all this? Let anybody learn.
You have a telescope also at IIT.
Okay. Yes.
But can we come and
Yeah, anybody. That's the biggest telescope among IITs, 1 meter telescope. So what we have started here is we converted all our classrooms into hybrid classrooms. And we started asking faculty, are you willing to teach an outsider along with your regular students, whatever you are teaching regularly? And once a faculty agrees, we advertise saying that here is a course that, this is a timetable. If the timetable suits you, you can be anywhere in the world. You can register for a course. I teach a course 6 to 7:30, okay, in the evening. And I have a student from Sweden. I have a student from Dubai sitting in that same class.
Astronomy club also, I believe.
There is an astronomy club. Yes.
One of us would like to join, maybe.
I will connect you to the right faculty.
Yeah.
So this way, we say that anybody let them learn. Whether it is you are a student or a faculty or a working professional or an 80 or 90-year-old man or a woman, let anybody learn. Okay? Let learning be no constraints. And I tell my colleagues, do not control the entry, control only the exit. Okay? Most of the time in India, we only control the entry. various entrance exams we put. Okay, but the exit is very easy. After the entry is made very tough. So we say that as long as your course is tough enough, that only those who are good will pass. Otherwise, you need not. And if you pass, we give a certificate that you have done this course from IIT Hyderabad with these number of credits, and this is the. We are not giving a degree. We are giving just a course. You are enabling people to learn. So these are the ways by which you should enable people to learn, and that if a student is willing to learn the GCC, why not? You mentioned about that.
Yeah, basically, companies from abroad, they're opening their
Excellent centers.
excellency centers
Centers.
there in that sense. So, I just wanted to know how do you see it?
Yeah.
Way of benefit of-
You should encourage, in my view, anything which is progressive should be encouraged. Okay, rather than thinking, oh, what problems it may create. Okay, I mean, I always see, as I told you, half-filled glass. I look at. Okay.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Professor.
you. Thank you.
It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure talking to you. It has been a fascinating discussion. So
Thank you.
different from our usual Hyderabad
No,
episodes.
no, no.
So different.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sparing the time.
Thank you very much.